And Christmas is nearly here. And what would the season be without the usual attacks and often outright mockery of one of the most sacred days on the Christian calendar? Here to share his thoughts on Christmas 2023 is President of the Catholic League, Dr. Bill Donohue. Bill, I want to start with some of what we're seeing across the nation. In the Iowa State House, visitors are treated to this image. It's a satanic statue with an altar before it, complete with candles. The Satanic Temple, who erected this thing, is obviously capitalizing on religious plurality in public places. What else do you think is at play here?
Quite frankly, it's abortion. That may sound surprising to some people. What does abortion have to do with the Satanic Temple out of Detroit? It has everything to do with it. I've been engaged with them in conversations for years. Their idea of liberty is first and foremost the right to kill a child in a mother's womb. They're the most vicious supporters of abortion on demand in the United States. Sure, there's a lot of other people out there who vote that way, but people might be surprised. Look into the Satanic Temple, go onto their website, and I will be proven right. This group is just, they are bloodthirsty to kill the children.
But why erect these statues? I mean, clearly, in the midst of Christmas trees and creches, they have this, the statue of the devil, complete with a little altar. Why that at Christmas time?
Well, because it's Christmas time. Look, the First Amendment is conditioned on time, place, and manner. If they want to have their little anti-religious statement, let them have it at a time other than Christmas. That's what's normally been done in this country. Now we're at the point where time, place, and manner doesn't seem to matter anymore, but it should. This is an anti-statement. They're pro-abortion and they're anti-Christian. And obviously they choose December. They don't choose February, Black History Month. They don't choose June, Gay Transgender Month. They always choose December, which is Christmas month. There's a vicious element within these people. And we need to call them out for it. It's look, they know what they're doing. They say, well, we don't believe in Satan as a religious figure, theistic. They believe in Satan for everything he stands for, and that's why they call themselves Satanists. They're playing a game with us.
There's a Christmas tree festival hosted every year at the National Railroad Museum, Bill, in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Some 66 organizations are represented this year, but only 6 of those are sponsored by Christian groups. 2 of the trees are creating controversy, however, one by, you guessed it, a satanic group, and the other by an LGBT organization. Now, Bill, the Railroad Museum spokesman says the inclusion of these Satanist and LGBT displays, this is part of being inclusive. Is it inclusive to your eye? Now,
if a racist had an anti-Black demonstration or portrayal of Martin Luther King in February, they wouldn't call that inclusion. If you attack gays in June, they wouldn't call that inclusion. This is just a game. Look, inclusion and diversity are propagandist tools. They're weapons used by the left to beat down traditional Americans. And they play this game on the college campuses. They say that Christians can't have their own Christian leaders of their clubs. Can you imagine a gay group has to have a straight guy as the head of their group? No, or a white guy as head of the Black Student Union? No, they use these as a tool. That's just simply a lie. What this is about is watering down, it's neutering Christmas. And that's why they try to say it represents everybody. What they'd like to do is censor us. They did try that, for years, because I fought the censorship for years. When they lost on that, the next thing to do is to go parallel and start just flooding the public square with their own satanic and transgender props and displays. The whole thing is demonic as far as I'm concerned.
In New York City, your organization, the Catholic League, premiered a new digital billboard to celebrate Christmas and religious diversity. We'll put it up on the screen. Tell us about the billboard, where it's located, and what is the message you're hoping to send here, Bill?
Yeah, I came up with the idea a few months ago. I said, let's do something positive. And, we already have our nativity scene in Central Park in front of the Plaza Hotel. We've had it every year since 1993 or 4 or 5. But we haven't done anything in Times Square. And I just walked over there from my office to come over here to do the show. And I only waited about 7 or 8 minutes, and it came. Yeah, it's on Broadway in Times Square between 44th and 45th Street on the east side of the street, right above street level. It's big. It's digital. It's a picture of our Blessed Mother and Joseph and Jesus. And at the top it says celebrate religious diversity, and then it says celebrate Christmas, and it's got the Catholic League logo. We're trying to make a statement. If you believe in diversity, you should believe in diversity as it was initially understood. Pluralism, but pluralism within the context of a Judeo-Christian society. And what I'm saying is that since you'd like to censor us, we're going to play the diversity card against you. And we're also going to say that if you have to understand, everything has roots, and our country is rooted in the Judeo-Christian heritage and ethos. And so it's that kind of a positive statement. We're getting some very nice comments and people taking photos of it. And it's, everything else is selling liquor and cars and whatnot and clothes. And that's all fine and good. But we're making a Christmas statement right in the heart of Times Square.
In addition to the billboard, and you mentioned this, the Catholic League puts up, and I love when I walk on the Upper East Side, there's the Nativity scene right there outside of Central Park, on Fifth Avenue. It's a life-size display, as you can see from these photos. You received a permit from the city, as you have for decades. What's been the response of New Yorkers and tourists, Bill? Any complaints, any outrage over this?
When we first put it up back in the mid-'90s, there were complaints. But we reminded people that we didn't put it outside City Hall, which is public property. We want a piece of public property which is regarded as a public forum for artists, musicians, for people who want to voice any kind of idea. And the world's largest menorah is in the exact same spot right behind us, and that's fine with me. I'm all in favor of that. But so you can't stop us. We picked our spot intentionally so that New York City couldn't, by law, by constitutional law, they couldn't stop us. I didn't put it in a municipal building or even next to the City Hall, because that would give them some leverage to censor us. So that's why we were able to do this. And yes, we get the permit. And while we got some blowback initially, people love it. And that's where people line up to take pictures, particularly the tourists.
Yeah, no, I've seen it myself. In fact, Bill, you mentioned the world's largest menorah that's right there in front of the plaza with your nativity. And I have to say, perhaps this year more than any other, I was walking out of St. Patrick's a couple of weeks ago, and there was a Jewish family that recognized me. The father had a yarmulke on and one of the boys. And they said, "Oh, Mr. Arroyo, Merry Christmas." And I said, "Well, Happy Hanukkah." And we hugged, and it was kind of a beautiful moment, I thought. One of those only in New York moments. But given the Hamas-Israeli war, we are seeing places in the country, Bill, like Williamsburg, Virginia, where they actually banned a menorah display to avoid looking like, quote, it was a celebration of Judaism. Your reaction to that?
Yeah. So we can't celebrate Judaism on Hanukkah. It's okay to say that we can kill all Jews. That's free speech on the college campuses. Look, nobody really believes this unless you're deranged. We know what's going on. There's a lot of Jew hatred in this country. There's a lot of hatred against Christians. And they'll use any kind of weapon they want. Even Newsom, the guy out in California, Governor Newsom, he wouldn't even allow the Christmas trees up there because that was too controversial. I mean, why is it always us, the traditionalists in our country, Jews, Catholics, Muslims, Protestants? Why is it always our voice that has to be censored? It's never the voice of the transgender, the LGBTQ plus type people. It's never, some Antifa can do whatever they want, and these people, no, it's a one-way street. And what is surprising to me as a lifelong New Yorker, I did spend 15 years in Pittsburgh, but I can tell you, I've never seen New York more anti-Semitic in my entire life, because Jews and Catholics dominate New York. Protestants are a minority. And the whiplash against Jews is something which I find outrageous, and I've never witnessed anything like it.
Yeah. Well, why do you think, Bill, there is this impulse to simply cancel things to basically appease, in this case, pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas mobs and protesters? You have that sensitivity in Sacramento. You have it in Williamsburg, Virginia. It doesn't seem to exist in New York City. In fact, Adam said he was going to double the patrols around the menorahs, and I said I hope he doubles the patrol around your nativity scene as well.
Well, New York does have a very strong Jewish population, so it's a little more difficult to pull that off here. However, don't forget, they just had the lighting of the Christmas tree in Rockwell Center recently, and they had a massive amount of cops who had to stop the pro-Palestinian terrorist from trying to crash the entire proceedings. Now, it's interesting, Adams allowed the cops to do their job there because it's all about money. NBC had to make their money. They had Sharon and whatnot. It was just some other time. These lunatics take over the Brooklyn Bridge. They take over the Manhattan Bridge. They trash things. They go after the cops. There's been a lot of violence. A lot of it's been unreported by these Palestinian terrorists, and that's what we have to call them. They are terrorists. A terrorist is somebody who attacks innocent people, and that's what they're doing. They're not attacking people who are fighting back against them. It's one way. I don't know of a single instance where Jews have just decided to go into a Muslim neighborhood and start thrashing things. It's always the other way around. And I'm not saying most Muslims are doing this. They're not. But there's a big group of people with the pro-Palestinians, and they have hatred in their heart. When you walk around with a Nazi insignia, an enormous Nazi insignia, I've seen them walking the streets of New York. We know what side you're on. We know that you're Nazis. You want to be known as Nazis, and we believe you.
Bill, before we run out of time, at the Senate hearings with FBI Director Christopher Wray, a new report was revealed that shows, or seems to show, that the Bureau of Investigation probed traditional Catholics, and that probe was much wider than originally believed. Senator Josh Hawley confronted Wray about priests and church personnel being asked to inform on parishioners. Watch.
Let's talk a little bit about the FBI's egregious targeting of Catholic Americans. You have repeatedly been asked about the memo generated by the Richmond field office, we now know in collaboration with multiple other field offices, about recruiting sources in Catholic churches. You have repeatedly said that no human sources were approached. But now we know that, in fact, FBI agents did approach a priest and a choir director to ask them to inform on parishioners.
Bill, you have been watching this story since it first broke. What do you make of the government's focus on traditional Catholic groups, and why focus on them?
Well, I read the entire report, which was released on December the 4th. And unlike many people in the media who read an executive summary, I read it from top to bottom. And I commend Senator Josh Hawley. However, my takeaway is a little bit different in terms of emphasis. They went after not just traditional Catholics. If you were, and they said this literally, if you are pro-life, pro-family, and if you believe in the biological basis of race, of sex and gender, you are a domestic threat. So I believe that men and women are different. I believe in the family. I believe that we should protect the life of the child in the mother's womb. That makes me a domestic terrorist. By the way, they didn't go after dissident Catholics. They went after people who are practicing Orthodox Catholics. And it's not just the Latin Mass people. That would be bad enough. But they extended it, as I knew they would, to mainline Catholics. Now, I wrote to Senator Jim Jordan, head of the House Judiciary Committee, 5 times this year. I want to commend him for that because Mike McDonald, our Director of Communications, has been in touch with his staff, and they're very appreciative of our efforts. And because I want to know this, why was the Southern Poverty Law Center, the Atlantic, and Salon leaned on by the FBI for dirt about the Catholic Church? And here's the real story. This has been missed by people because they just read the executive summary. They wanted to go national. Yes, it started in Richmond, the Richmond field office, and they got help from Milwaukee and from LA and Portland. But they wanted to take this nationally. That's what's in the report. So this was just an experiment to choose one place. And we have to purge the FBI of its anti-Catholic cell group. And I'm not condemning all FBI people. I am simply saying there's an anti-Catholic cell group within the FBI. It needs to be purged. And by the way, the report which came out December 4th said it's still ongoing. They haven't taken back anything. And no one's been fired.
Well, we will leave it there, Bill, but it's a really troubling story. I'm glad you delved into it and shared it with the audience tonight. And Merry Christmas. You can visit CatholicLeague.org for more. Thank you, Bill.
Merry Christmas.